Social movements mobilized on Sunday in Caracas against the U.S. kidnapping of diplomat Alex Saab. In Colombia, a new massacre left 5 dead, between there 3 Venezuelans nationals, also 2 Colombians, who were killed by hitmen identifying themselves as policemen. Israeli soldiers deliberately prevented the students from walking along the Nablus-Ramallah road to reach their school on time, forcing them to choose an unsafe route. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your host, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. Social movements mobilized on Sunday at the Bolivar Square in Caracas against the U.S. kidnapping of diplomat Alex Saab. Called by the Movement for the Liberation of Alex Saab, demonstrators denounced the kidnapping of Alex Saab by the U.S. government with the complicity of the government of Cape Verde and rejected the lack of due process in his case. They also support the decisions of the Venezuelan government to temporarily suspend its participation in the peace dialogues with the oppositions held in Mexico.
I am Camila Saab. Today, I am here to demand the freedom of my husband, Alex Saab. I want to denounce the kidnapping, the second kidnapping, and the extraction of my husband, Alex Saab, because of the complicity of the government of Cape Verde with the United States, which took place yesterday, October 16, 2021. We will continue defending Alex's freedom always, 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 until we win. And we will always be with Nicolás Maduro, and we will always support him.
Also, in New York City, there have been demonstrations against the detention of Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab by the U.S. government. Anti-imperialist activists and organizations such as the Center for Political Innovation, the Bolivarian Circles, and the International Action Center have gathered on Sunday in Times Square to denounce the kidnapping of the Venezuelan diplomat.
The United States is choosing to essentially also murder this foreign diplomat. The United States can't do that. We have to fight back. We have to say, free Alex Saab!
Free Alex Saab!
Free Alex Saab!
Alex Saab, a Colombian Venezuelan diplomat, is the latest political prisoner of empire. No different than Mumia Abu Jamal. No different than Matulu Shakur. No different than Asada Shakur. Leonard Peltier and so many other heroines and heroes. Why is Alex Saab en route to a jail cell in Miami? Shame on the Cape Verdean government. There's elections today in Cape Verde between Tweedledee and Tweedledum, 2 representatives of neoliberalism and neocolonialism. The sons and daughters of Amilcar Cabral would be ashamed that the Cape Verdean government has been so subservient.
And we'll remain on topic. Jose Manuel Pinto Monteiro, a member of Alex Saab's defense team, agreed that the Venezuelan diplomat has been victim of kidnapping.
Alex Saab, Special Envoy and Ambassador of Venezuela, was kidnapped today by the United States and taken to the U.S. territory. The procedure is completely illegal and shameful for Cape Verde and violates all norms of international and national law.
In this context, the delegation of Venezuelan opposition in the peace talks pronounced itself on the decision made by the government's delegation to withdraw from the negotiations held in Mexico. The opposing Plataforma Unitaria, the unitary platform, issued a statement where it confirmed its willingness to continue to seek a lasting compromise with the government to solve Venezuela's internal problems. The group expressed the need to see out the negotiations in an appropriate moment and conditions, waiting to resume talks whenever the representatives of the Venezuelan executive deem adequate. Due to the U.S. and the Cape Verde's out-of-bounds acts of abuse and violations of Alex Saab's human rights, the delegation of the Bolivarian government that participated in the peace talks with the opposition decided to back out of the process, as Saab himself constitutes a member of such party, all the while he is being held in a U.S. maximum security prison in defiance of international law. On Saturday, the head of the Bolivarian government in talks with the opposition, Jorge Rodriguez, informed of the withdrawal of his delegation from the negotiations in Mexico as a response to the abduction of the diplomat Alex Saab.
The delegation announces that it is suspending its participation at the negotiation and dialogue table tomorrow, October 17th in Mexico City, as an expression of our deepest protest against the brutal aggression against the person and the investiture of our delegate Alex Saab Moran.
Jorge Rodriguez denounced the illegal abduction of Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab, carried out by the government of the United States.
The delegation of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to the table of dialogue and negotiation repudiates the illegal operation of an extraction carried out by the government of the United States today in the person of the Venezuelan citizen Alex Saab Moran, a representative in the referred process and Venezuela's diplomatic representative to the African Union.
Jorge Rodriguez denounced the systematic torture of Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab by the government of Cape Verde.
500 days, Alex Saab's human rights have been systematically violated by the government of Cape Verde and the judicial system of that country. Alex Saab has been subjected to torture, and on several occasions his family and lawyers have been denied access to know about his health. This illegal and inhumane action against international law constitutes a new act of aggression by the government of the United States against the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, given that Alex Saab has been incorporated by our country as a full member of the process of dialogue and negotiation that has taken place in Mexico.
Jorge Rodriguez also made the governments of Colombia and the United States, as well as the extremist sector of the Venezuelan opposition, responsible for the kidnapping of Alex Saab.
We hold the belligerent narco government of Ivan Duque accountable for this crime, as well as the government of the United States of America and the most violent sectors of the far right wing in Venezuela, including Leopoldo Lopez, Juan Guaidó, Carlos Vecchio, Carlos Paparoni, who persist in their provocative and aggressive actions that harm and attempt against the progress of the table talks in Mexico City.
And we'll be right back after this very short break. But first, we invite you to watch a video on the illegal extradition of the Venezuelan diplomat Alex Saab to the U.S. territory. Welcome back. In Colombia, a new massacre in the municipality of Betania in the Antioquia department left 5 dead, between 3 Venezuelan nationals and 2 Colombians who were killed by hitmen identifying themselves as policemen. The Institute of Studies for Development and Peace in the past informed on the matter on its Twitter account, pointed out that this is the massacre number 76 so far this year in the South American country. The municipality of Betania called for an extraordinary Security Council in which civil and military officials of the region will participate. The preliminary results in the investigation suggest that at the moment of the events, the hitmen identified themselves as coppers and called out by the victims by the names. Also, in the ranch of La Bogotana, where the killings took place, an undetonated explosive device was found. In El Salvador, the Popular Resistance Bloc, which brings together thousands of social movements and organizations, marched on Sunday against the administration of President Nayib Bukele. After the massive mobilization of September 15th, the bloc called for a new protest to reject the lack of independence of the judiciary, the repeal of the Bitcoin law, impunity in cases of forced disappearances, among other demands. The march started at 8:30 a.m. local time from Cuscatlán Park and is expected to reach the center of El Salvador to conclude in the civic square Gerardo Barrio. The Brazilian Senate installed in April a commission to investigate possible omissions by the government of President Jair Bolsonaro in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Lawmakers summoned dozens of witnesses and revealed a series of failures in the management of the health emergency that could lead to criminal and political consequences for the president and other members of the government. Senator Omar Aziz, president of the Parliamentary Commission, assures that the final report, to be published on Tuesday, will show that the president committed several crimes.
The president propagated medication not scientifically proven. The president campaigned to use chloroquine. The president was against the use of masks. The president was in favor of crowding. The president was against staying home. He committed several crimes, and besides him and his psychopaths on duty too. We discovered indications of corruption, conclusions about early treatment, a parallel office to command and coordinate the actions against COVID-19. They found out that when there were intermediaries to buy the vaccine, Brazil focused more on that than buying directly from Pfizer or another large global laboratory so that we could have the vaccine.
Now we continue with other topics. Panama's authorities exhumed the remains of hundreds of victims of the 1989 U.S. invasion to kidnap President Manuel Antonio Noriega. Scientists took on the task of identifying the remains of what is believed to be hundreds of people who were killed during the military operation called Causa Justa, the right cause. Officials estimate put the death toll at approximately 300 Panamanian soldiers and civilians. However, human rights groups have estimated the death toll in thousands. All recovered remains are subjected to DNA testing for identification. A DNA bank has compiled biological samples taken from family members that will be used to compare with the exhumed remains. In Haiti, 17 U.S. citizens who traveled as part of a religious mission were kidnapped. The abducted are members of the Christian Aid Ministers Organization, settled in Ohio, and has been involved in child sexual abuse investigations. The 17 U.S. nationals were kidnapped along with other accompanying people, among them several children, where they returned to the capital after visiting an orphanage. These events were informed by the director of the mission from the U.S. Embassy in Haiti. In 2021, so far, only in Port-au-Prince have been registered 328 kidnappings, as well as many assaults, rapes, and murders committed by criminal groups operating in the country. In Spain, the price of electricity will reach a new historical record on Monday. Spanish people will pay 280 euros per megawatt hour in the highest demand band. The highest price this Monday will be between 20 hours and 21 hours, while the lowest will be registered between 13 and 14 hours, when it will quote 193.73 euros per megawatt hour. This is an increase of 80.5% with respect to the one registered on Sunday, according to data from the operator. Electricity prices in Spain have increased sixfold in the last year. The European Commission evaluates the Spanish proposal to contain the escalation of prices by means of joint gas purchases to create strategic reserves. Germany's Green Party gave its blessing on Sunday to open informal coalition talks on a new government that will speed up the country's exit from coal-fueled power and the expansion of renewable energy. A Congress of the Environmentalist Party signed off on negotiators' recommendations to open full-fledged talks on a government led by center-left Social Democrat Olaf Scholz. The pro-business Free Democrats, who usually ally with the center-right, will be the coalition's third partner. Their leadership is expected to give its approval on Monday. A preliminary agreement after initial exploratory talks calls for Germany to accelerate its exit from coal-fueled power, currently due it by 2038, so it ideally happens by 2030. That is a key green demand. It also pledged to speed up drastically Germany's expansion of renewable energy generation, but says there will no overall speed limit on Germany's highways, which the Free Democrats opposed.
For us, for the Greens, it is indeed the case that we are currently writing a piece of green history. We are on the verge of becoming part of a federal government again for the second time, only the second time, it has to be said, in the long history of this federal republic. For the second time, we are being given the responsibility not only to describe this country's fate, but also to take responsibility for it, to tackle the tasks and to stand up for them ourselves.
We have more stories coming up, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Israeli forces obstruct students' access to schools south of Nablus, according to sources of the ground. Information reported by the Palestinian news agency Wafa stated that the Israeli soldiers deliberately prevented the students from walking along the Nablus-Ramallah road to reach their school on time, forcing them to choose an unsafe route. Furthermore, the report that the occupation forces held a 17-year-old student from the nearby village of Amuriya for more than 2 hours before releasing him. Such attacks by Israeli military forces and settlers in Palestine constitute a grave violation of children's rights to education, particularly frequent in the most vulnerable areas of the West Bank and Jerusalem. Afghanistan's Taliban government will allow girls to return to secondary school, according to Deputy Executive Director of the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, in Afghanistan, Omar Abdi, who made the statement at a press conference in New York. Abdi informed after a 4-day trip to Afghanistan and Pakistan that the return of girls to school will take place very soon. In this regard, the official said that he held a meeting with the current Minister of Education of the Taliban government, who pledged to ensure the return to the classrooms in the next 2 months. The official also noted that the situation in Afghanistan is getting worse and estimated that Afghan women and children will need more humanitarian aid in the coming months. Thousands of protesters marched on Sunday in 2 Polish cities, also in solidarity with migrants and asylum seekers at the border with Belarus, who have been pushed back by Polish authorities. Several thousand people demonstrated in Warsaw, while others protested in Krakow under the slogan "Stop Torture at the Border." Marchers accused Polish authorities of cruel behavior for pushing the migrants back and for imposing a state of emergency at the border that has prevented human rights workers from going there to aid people. The marchers went past the Polish parliament, which approved the state of emergency and also adopted legislation allowing the arbitrary rejection of migrants' asylum applications. The UN Refugee Agency said the legislation undermines the fundamental right to seek asylum set out in international and EU law.
I want to express what everyone present here. That is, I do not agree to the methods used by our authorities. Illegal pushbacks and above all, consent, and even participation in the dying of people on the border. Adults, women, children, simply shameful.
I was a refugee. I came to Poland in 1996, crossed the border exactly where people are now dying. I was over 20 days there, so I know what I'm saying. Really feel sorry for these people who are on their own, without any help. Children, women, sick people, etc. Where is the conscience of people? Where is Polish hospitality?
Hundreds of demonstrators have gathered in Paris to commemorate the 60th anniversary of the massacre of Algerians by French police. Human rights and anti-racism groups, as well as Algerian associations, staged a tribute march in Paris on Sunday and called on authorities to recognize France's responsibility for the tragedies related to Algeria's independence war. Participants demanded on authorities to open up the archives on the bloodshed in France's capital that day. On October 17, 1961, protesters held a peaceful demonstration against a discriminatory nighttime curfew targeting Algerians in the Paris region. About 12,000 Algerians were arrested and dozens were killed, their bodies thrown into the Seine River.
So we come together to remember this extremely painful event. For France and Algeria's contemporary history, it would be good that archives become accessible so historians can do their work.
Film director Klim Shipenko and the actress Julia Perzelt returned to Earth on Sunday after spending 12 days at the International Space Station, where they recorded the first movie with prioritized aesthetic intention to be shot in space. The Russian film crew and the astronaut from the Russian Space Agency, Oleg Novitsky, managed to record about 40 minutes for their movie titled Vizovs, which is challenge or defiance in Russian. This is considered a milestone aimed at popularizing the space industry in society. The movie tells the story of a doctor that flies out to the cosmos to save the life of an astronaut. The Russian director and the actress will require about 10 days of recovery, during which they might experience difficulties in movement and blood pressure shifts. And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.
Follow the most important